This is Laura from Victory for Ukraine, where we visualize that Ukraine has everything they need to win this war. Russia is weaponizing food. So, Russia says it understands the concerns of African countries over grain. That's a very telling statement. So, the Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Vershinin told journalists, "We understand the concerns of our African friends may have, but I want to say that those concerns are not only understandable, but will be fully taken into account." But let's stand back and see that Russia has destroyed with their missiles 60,000 tons of grain. And Russia wants allies, so it's hosting an Africa summit. Food security and Wagner are key questions. But hours after Russia terminated the deal to keep grain flowing from Ukraine, Moscow's ambassador saw an opening to appeal to one of African countries that would feel the effects most. And here's their quote: "Now, my dear Kenyan friends, you know the whole truth about who is weaponizing food. It's Russia that's weaponizing food, and that's how they circled back to charge Kenya more by destroying Ukraine's grain." So Russia, after pulling out of the deal, is using every missile they can to destroy Ukraine's grain so there won't be any to ship out. Let's listen to Ukraine's MP, Oleksiy Gerashenko.
A new missile attack against our city, and this time one of the missiles hit directly Orthodox Cathedral, in the night on Sunday, when this morning here should be a mess, and now you see it's destroyed. Just watch just watch. Again, Russia used all types of missiles to destroy our city, all types: Calibers, Iskanders, X-22 and others. I address to the world: Odessa needs protection, because this is the port, grain facilities of which work for 400 million people on the planet. 400 million people are dependent from the calories from Ukrainian crops. Just imagine, and Russia is absolutely deliberately destroying it. Also, Odessa is a World Heritage Site of UNESCO, and watch what they are doing with our city. Again, there are killed people, there are wounded people, and Odessa is wounded in heart. So we need protection, we need air defense right now. Provide Ukraine, especially for Odessa port, by special air defense systems, THAAD, Patriots. We need it right now in order to save this heritage of humankind, and in order to save this agricultural export potential which we have.
So what does President Zelensky need for his country? Let's listen in to Brigadier General Steve Anderson and get some context.
So Russia claims that these consecutive strikes in Odessa are in retaliation for Ukraine attacking the bridge linking annexed Crimea to Russia that we discussed. I don't even know when that was, earlier this week, I suppose. What is your assessment?
My assessment is that attacking the port of Odessa because that is the major shipping infrastructure that supports the Black Sea Grain Initiative. And of course, Russia is not signing or not extending the initiative. I think that they're simply trying to bring hurt to the Ukrainian people and negate their ability to ship grain out of this very key port of Odessa that heretofore has been going all the way down to Istanbul and getting out to feed the Eastern Hemisphere. It's so critical that we get that food out.
Do you buy that it's a retaliation, or does it matter even at this point?
It doesn't really matter that at this point. It probably, you can make an argument on either side, but it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, though, we need more air defense artillery systems in Odessa.
So Ukraine was only able to shoot down just 5 out of these 19 Russian cruise missiles overnight. What type of air defense systems should the U.S. be providing the Ukrainians, and why is that equipment that they already sent the U.S., why has it not been enough?
Well, thank you, Jake. Before we get to that, I want to just put this into perspective here. $40 billion is what we've spent thus far, the United States, on supporting the war in Ukraine. That is equivalent to 3.5 months of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Remember, 15 years ago, we were spending $300 million a day on that war. So I submit to you, this is a far more important fight. This is the most important geopolitical event of our lifetime, Jake. And so we've got to do more. So what do we mean by that? Well, we need to get the NASAMS there. Now, Alex just reported on this. They just approved sending 4 of these systems in there. But it's going to take probably 6 to 9 months to have any impact. What I'm saying is we need more air defense, and we need to get systems like Patriot. Now, we got 15 battalions in the United States Army of Patriot missiles. These are incredibly effective missiles, but they're not really good at shooting down the drones. And so that we need to use this system, the CRAM. I personally was deployed to Afghanistan in 2016 to 2018. I've seen these things in action. They're absolutely amazing. They're built on the Navy phalanx system. They're incredible. They'll shoot down anything bigger than a soccer ball that comes across that tries to penetrate the perimeter. We need to get these CRAMs. There are 53 systems in the Army right now. I say we need to get 10 of them over to Odessa right away.
And lastly, Russia and Ukraine have been exchanging fighting words over the Black Sea, which you talked about, that grain export deal thrown out the window. Russia threatening to take out any ships going to any Ukrainian port. Ukraine now says that they'll do the same when it comes to Russian ships.
Well, we've seen the Ukrainians' ability to hit pinpoint targets like they hit the Kerch Bridge back here the other day. They used sea surface drones to do that. And I submit to you, Drake, that all the Russian Navy is at risk now. However, you know, the reality is that no insurer is going to support any kind of shipment now out of Odessa down to Istanbul. Anybody that owns a ship isn't going to want to put it in the middle of a war zone. So we, the United States and NATO, need to step up our transportation capability and help the Ukrainians get all this grain out of the Ukraine. They need to do it overland through rail. They have the 9th greatest rail system in the world. There's no reason why we can't leverage that. I would like to submit a couple of historic examples. Remember the Berlin airlift back in 1948? We were landing a plane every 10 minutes to support the people in Berlin. We can do the same kind of thing here. We can support the Ukrainians, help them get the grain out of Ukraine, overland, over truck and rail lines, and feed the world, because otherwise tens of millions of people in the world, particularly in the Eastern Hemisphere, are going to be starving.
All right, General Anderson, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Here is Techno Limit telling us what it's all about.
The system is composed of several components, which are all essential to its successful operation. The primary components include a radar system that detects the incoming enemy projectile and provides information on its location and trajectory. Missile launch platforms are also necessary to allow for a quick counter-reaction time when deployed. Other components of a CRAM system may include infrared sensors, computers, communication systems, and reactive methods such as weaponized smoke or decoys. A CRAM system protects land-based assets from airborne threats, such as aircraft or drones. A CRAM system can accurately detect and track projectiles when equipped with the proper components, allowing for an effective countermeasure response. It can also provide early warning of an attack, giving personnel time to take shelter or react appropriately. Overall, a well-managed CRAM defense system can significantly reduce the risk of destruction from enemy forces. The CRAM weapons system has some other perceived weaknesses too. For example, it takes around 5 seconds to acquire, lock onto, and engage a threat. It also has a fairly short effective range of between 100 and 1,000 meters. These weaknesses aside, it's shown itself to be one of the most effective anti-missile, mortar, and artillery defense systems in the world. For this reason, it'll likely remain an important player for many armed forces around the world for many years to come.
And so here's a tweet from Chantal Dugdale saying that if Ukraine had ATACMS or something equivalent to that missile, they could start taking out the ships and military targets in Crimea. Let's also lean into Wesley Clark. He's the former Supreme Allied NATO commander.
Number one is how much more assistance can we give them? We know they're short of ammunition right now. That's why we gave them the ICMs, DPICMs. But can we get enough for them? Does that make up for it? We know they need long-range fires. We won't give them the Army tactical missile system. That's been discussed. There was another headline today in the New York Times saying not going to happen anytime soon. They need that. They need it as a reserve. They need it to strike deep. When are the F-16s going to come in? And what about the mine clearing equipment and the electronic warfare equipment? Russia's not standing still on this, Jim. There's no indication that President Putin has said, well, that's it. Let the offensive sort of blurt itself out, and we'll be happy to take our half of Ukraine. He's not saying that. Instead, he's put the Wagner Group in Belarus. They're threatening Poland, or they could come in the back door and threaten Kyiv. And the Poles are certainly taking this very seriously, as are the Lithuanians. So this is far from settled.
And a bit of karmic intervention brought to you by Sergei Surovikin. You remember him, the general responsible for thousands of deaths in Chechnya, Syria, and now, of course, Ukraine. Well, he was a VIP member of Wagner since 2018. And here you see him in this picture. He's holding a Kalashnikov. And just see the utter panic on his face. This is a guy that knows where all the bodies are buried because he buried some of them. He knows all what they do, the poisonings, falling off windows, all the deaths and destruction. And there are unconfirmed reports that this general is in the notorious Moscow prison Morozhka Tishna. But here is another report that he is resting. He's in his 50s, and let's just wish him a very long rest. Let's hear from President Zelensky on Odessa. I'll pin this in the description.
Десь одна людина загинула, мої співчуття рідним та близьким. 20 людей травмовані, серед них 4 дітей. 11 років, 12 років, двоє 17-річних. Усім надається необхідна допомога. Я дякую кожному і кожній, хто з Одесою. Дякую всім в місті, хто допомагає постраждалим та із розбором завалів. І рятувальники, і лікарі, військові, і поліцейські, волонтери, місцева влада, бізнес, який долучився. Дякую усім містянам. Дуже важливо допомагати одне одному і своєму місту. Окремо я хочу подякувати і тим у світі, хто вже засудив цей черговий прояв російського зла. Не можна допустити, щоб люди у світі звикли до терористичних атак. Мішенью усіх цих ракет є не просто міста, села чи люди. Їхня мішень – це людяність і основи всієї нашої європейської культури. Цієї ночі російська ракета, а це була Х-22, протикорабельна ракета, вона влучила у вівтар Свято-Преображенського собору Одеси, один із найцінніших соборів України. В 1936 році його розграбували, знищили більшовики. Вже у незалежній Україні собор був відновлений, і ось знову терористи намагаються його знищити. Загалом лише цієї ночі в Одесі майже 50 будинків були пошкоджені.
To summarize, General Wesley Clark and retired Brigadier General Steve Anderson both concur that we need to arm Ukraine right now, specifically with the Patriot missile systems and the CRAMS, which can shoot down drones and other missiles, to address this terrorist attack from Russia. And you see how their strategy, they destroy the grain in Odessa, and then they go around to Kenya claiming that they're their friend, and then selling the grain to them at a higher price. This must be stopped. We must arm Ukraine. This is Laura signing off for Victory for Ukraine, where Ukraine has everything they need to win this war. Please like and subscribe, and I will bring you more content like this.